Okay, so what are your impressions of TM, and have you ever tried Mahesh Yogi's transcendental meditation? And if yes, how was it?
Well, I had a lot of curiosity, but I haven't personally tried TM. The thing is that I used to be in the UK for some time. In the UK, it was quite expensive. It went into hundreds of pounds. So I thought, well, it's a bit strange that as an Indian, I should start learning TM in the UK and pay hundreds of pounds. But on an India trip, I said, let me try and learn it in India. So I Googled, I searched, and I found somebody somewhere in South Delhi, Safdarjung Enclave, who claimed to be a TM instructor. And I spoke to him also. But then he said, okay, I will teach you TM, and since you are an Indian citizen, we will charge you a much lower rate. But you have to get me flowers, you have to get me, some customary offerings. And it seemed to me that I would have to treat him for a while just as a guru. Now that is something that went against my grain, because I don't believe in rituals, meaningless rituals. So the idea of offering somebody flowers, somebody whom I didn't know, didn't appeal to me. The money was not so much of an issue, but then I said, no, I'm not going to do this. Having said that, my own experience, I didn't have an experience at all with TM, so I don't want to say that it's not anything good. Maybe I should have taken the plunge, given him the flowers and the coconut and whatever other things he wanted. But eventually I didn't do it. But having said that, there are hundreds and thousands of people who believe in TM. It hasn't caught on in India. When I was in India, I had to search to find a TM center. But if you are in the UK, and you'll be going soon enough, if you're in the UK, I am sure you'll find at least 40-50 centers in the UK. But they're going to be charging you maybe £1,100, which is a lot of money for a student. And I'm not sure if I would advise you to invest in it. I want to be fair. And to be fair, I have to say that there are people who say that TM has transformed their lives. You have the American filmmaker David Lynch, who's made these classic films. Mulholland Drive was one of my favorites, but he's made other masterpieces. He's a great believer in TM, and he has opened a center of his own in which he feels that TM, contributed a lot to his own creativity, his own peace of mind, and so he wants other people to also benefit. There are other people. For example, the singer Pink endorses TM, says a great thing. Then there's the globally famous celebrity host Ellen. She says, transcendental meditation, it works for her. So I would not be dismissive about these people. They have experienced some benefits. I never, went for the course. So it's not fair for me to say that TM is just fooling people or it doesn't work.
So how would you compare Mahesh Yogi's two disciples, Sri Ravi Shankar and Deepak Chopra?
In a way, they seem to have divided territory, because Sri Ravi Shankar is a global guru, but his fiefdom is really in India. So people love him in India. In the South, he has a following of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And he's also respected overseas. There are centers in the US, there are centers in Europe. But he is, I would say, more dominant in India than in the West. So the exact reverse is true for Deepak Chopra. Deepak Chopra has the Chopra Foundation, which is headquartered somewhere in California. So he is a global player. His books have been bestsellers, even on the New York Times. So he has all these books, and he gives talks. He appears on chat shows. So the Americans know him very well. He's highly regarded as a mystic, as a meditator. But in India, there's not so much knowledge about him. Of course, his books are available here also. Some years ago, he came and he gave a talk, but it was a ticketed talk. I think it was 2,000 rupees a ticket. One of my friends went for it. He wasn't sufficiently impressed. He felt Of course, in India, 2,000 rupees is a lot of money to pay and listen to somebody speak. But curiosity level was high. But I don't think in India he has that kind of reputation. Plus, of course, his presentation is different. He is mostly dressed in a business suit, where Siri is different. So the business suit works in America, but it would not work so well in India. So yeah, as I said, they seem to have divided territory.
All right, and how would you compare Mahesh Yogi and Osho?
Well, in terms of profound discourses, Mahesh Yogi cannot hold a candle to Osho. There is no comparison at all. Osho spoke on a range of topics, the breadth of his knowledge, the depth of his insights, the range of the topics he covered. Mahesh Yogi cannot compare. However, in favor of Mahesh Yogi, it has to be said that he left behind two important disciples who are global players in the Guru world, whatever you might think of them. And I have regard for Deepak Chopra, I have great regard for Sri Ravi Shankar. So Mahesh Yogi left behind a legacy. Osho spoke of the importance of transforming people. In many of his talks, he talks about how it's so important to transform people. He speaks of the Buddha and how the Buddha left behind Bodhidharma, Mahakashyap, took Buddhism further eastward to China, to other places in Southeast Asia. But Osho did not leave anybody particularly profound behind. There is no Osho disciple of global standing. So in that sense, you might say that although Osho's discourses were very profound, but he didn't leave behind a physical legacy in the form of a male or female disciple who could take his work forward. I believe that the real Guru wishes for his disciples to go even further than he has himself gone. So it must count for a failure on the part of Osho that he could not transform somebody who could really carry forward his own legacy.
So coming back to Mahesh Yogi and transcendental meditation, TM never became popularized in India.
That's true. But in a way, it could not have become, because the idea of meditation, as I mentioned at the beginning of our talk today, has existed in India for thousands of years. So there was nothing new. I mean, the meditation already existed in this land. There were so many people, so many gurus, different gurus who spoke about it. In the West, it was a novelty. So in that sense, it wasn't surprising that TM grew by leaps and bounds in the West, but it could not find a foothold here, because Mahesh Yogi was not offering anything new to Indians. We all knew about meditation in our houses, through our parents, through our grandparents. There was nothing new. But it was a contribution that he took this idea to the West. As far as TM itself is concerned, Osho critiqued it. Osho said, it's nonsense. It's just giving somebody a mantra and they repeat the mantra. It doesn't really matter what it is. Jiddu Krishnamurti went further. He was furious. He had great stature and reputation in the world. And he said transcendental meditation is a scam. It's nothing but a money-making scam. He hated it. But Jiddu also hated the idea of gurus. So Osho and Jiddu, they critiqued it. But I would not accept that they were absolutely right, because as I mentioned, David Lynch, Pink, Ellen, there are so many other people. They swear by it. If it works for somebody, it works for them. I might say that this chocolate cake is terrible. You might like it. So if somebody likes it, somebody is helped because of it. It can't be entirely negated. Having said that, I believe that there are some valid criticisms that have been made of TM.
Okay, that's interesting. Such as?
Well, the first criticism of TM is that it's too commercial, and that is taking Krishnamurti's argument forward. You have to pay hundreds of pounds. You might spend 900 pounds or 1,000 pounds for a short course of running into 3 or 4 days. That's a lot of money. And the second criticism is that once you go for the course, you are not supposed to tell anybody else what happened during the course. So in a way, it's a kind of a marketing thing, because if you tell somebody what you experienced at the TM course, then 2 things can happen. First thing is that they might say, oh, this is all there is to it. They just give you a mantra and you repeat the mantra. Why should I spend hundreds of pounds? So that's a possibility, and it could be a reason why people were told that whatever happens, whatever you learn here, you cannot share exactly what happens. I think if you have a great meditation technique, you should share it. Genuine spirituality is about sharing spiritual knowledge. So if you have something, why don't you share it? Why do you say you cannot share it? So that's something which Sri Sri also, actually, because his guru was Mahesh Yogi, when he started his Basic Art of Living course, there also people who went for the course, they had to sign a form that they're not going to tell other people what happened in this course. So again, if the Basic Art of Living course is teaching something valuable, what's the problem in sharing it? So these are, I think, some valid criticisms, but the criticisms are not sharp enough, or I would say strong enough, to deny the value of the courses itself. And to be fair, the TM people make a counter argument. They say this £900 which we charge you, it's a one-time payment and gives you lifetime access to TM centers around the world. The second argument is they say that we have these instructors. Who's going to pay their salary? How are we going to get the money? So we need to have a system that allows for payment of an allowance, a decent living wage to these instructors. So we need to charge this money. And they also defend the fact that you shouldn't share it, because they say that, oh, you know, somebody might share it and actually not communicate its proper essence. So we don't want to share it because somebody might share it improperly. I won't go into how valid these arguments are, but they are arguments nonetheless.
And what about discourses? If you compare Mahesh Yogi or Sri Sri Ravi Shankar with Osho?
There is no comparison. Whether it's Sri Sri, Mahesh Yogi's disciple, whether it's the guru or the disciple, as far as discourses are concerned, they cannot hold a candle to Osho.
Osho is no longer with us, but now we have Sadhguru. Would you say that Sadhguru's discourses are as good as Osho's?
Well, you know, Sadhguru, some of his discourses are really brilliant. And I have to say that in sometimes he even displays a practical intelligence which Osho didn't show. So he's wonderful. But by and large, I think Sadhguru doesn't match up to Osho. Because Osho displays such out-of-the-box thinking. And the other thing is that Osho was knowledgeable not only about Indian culture and Indian religion, but he speaks on Christianity, he speaks on Judaism, he speaks on Taoism, he speaks on Confucianism. So the range of the subjects he covers is just awesome. In that sense, I think Osho's discourses are at a higher level. Not to say that Sadhguru isn't brilliant, but for example, Sadhguru, sometimes he will keep saying during the course of his discourses, he'll say, isn't it so? Isn't it so? So it's very sincere and meaningful in one way, because he's really trying to make sure that the student or the disciple is understanding. But in the West, it would be considered to be patronizing. What do you mean, isn't it so? I can use my own brain. So Westerners will not like this, isn't this so? Indians are okay. But that's because Indians don't have sufficient critical thinking. There's this other lady also, Shivani. She also keeps saying, isn't it so, during the course of her discourses. And she also has millions of followers. So I think Osho is better.